Well, let's talk about. Well, I don't know if fun's the right word, but let's talk about a documentary. Larry, they, them. I'm here with Laurence, the subject of the documentary, and Catherine Legault, director and writer of the documentary. I guess what got you two together to put this? Because this is um, Florence. This is you're really putting yourself out there on this one, and I appreciate that, but could not have been easy, or maybe it was. You tell me.
Um, yeah, I mean, so Kate and I met on her previous film, Sisters, Dreams, and Variations, where I did some photography for it. And I started working on my project Puberty a couple of years later, which is a self portrait project looking at my experience taking testosterone as a non binary person. And Kate saw me posting about the project and thought it would be a good topic for a documentary. And yeah, that's how we started this project. Kate, do you want to talk about it some more?
Yeah, I think it resumes it well. Like we know each other for about 10 years now. And as Laurence mentioned, like I discovered about their hormonal treatment therapy on the social media. So I knew them before, but at one point they started posting pictures publicly, and they were posting photo reels, about 10 photos a reel with short side notes, like a journal, just like having breakfast in bed or prepping for my tea shot, those kind of things. So I thought it was really interesting, and it was also a good continuation with my first film about like the artistic process, identity, non-conforming identities. So it just felt like the right subject for me to tackle. And Laurence is a very articulate person, and I knew them, and like their art is just so beautiful and striking. So it was already like very cinematographic for me.
What were some of like? I can't imagine there'd be too many boundaries between the two of you, but I mean, just in any relationship, there always something. But what were some of the things you guys talked about before going about this? Because following someone with a camera, just living their life, that's that can be pretty invasive. And how do you go about that without while also still maintaining some bit of distance when it's needed?
Mm-hmm. Do you want to start, Laurence, or?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing is that we talked about every scene before filming it, and Kate had an idea of, what kind of scenes she wanted to get, and then I also had ideas of things in my life that I wanted to document. So, yeah, there was a lot of conversation before filming and also after filming of what we wanted to include in the final film. And then also, I think for me, there's a lot of space and time that has come since filming, and there's a lot of things in my life that have changed. Like I moved to a different place, like a completely different neighborhood, different studio, um, and I don't know. I just feel like there's a little bit of distance that allows for some more privacy now. Um, but yeah, I think the main thing is just that we talked about everything that was going to be filmed beforehand, so it wasn't invasive in that sense.
Yeah, we had a lot of conversations together. Like for me, transparency was really important, and I wanted to make it clear to Laurence like what the purpose of the film was and what the trajectory of the film was, and we were discussing about like their life, what was coming for them. So of course, I was asking very intimate questions to prepare. But it didn't mean that it was going to make it to the film. So that was also like two different things, like our relationship and the trust building together, and then the film. Also, there is a lot of nudity in the film. and this was already part of Laurence's work as a photographer, but it's a very different thing to be by themselves in a room making a self-portrait, being nude, or having a crew filming. So that's also something we discussed, making sure that they were comfortable sharing those moments. And I inspired myself a lot from their work and their book, but I wanted the film to be an object and a thing of its own, with its own style and its own perspective. So Laurence was already telling their story and doing it pretty well. So that's one of the reasons why the cinematic style is very much observational. So just like watching, witnessing Laurence in their everyday life. And then, of course, putting it all together brings like a whole other meaning to it. But I wanted to like go beyond the image and beyond like the photographic images that Laurence was sharing, and open up on like the different topics and their community and their family. So that's also something we discussed beforehand. And every time I was filming, I was asking Laurence to make a self-portrait. I think maybe in New York, we didn't have time because there was so much going on. But when I was filming at their place, like every time I was asking for a self-portrait, which they would do anyway every day, but they would then decide what they would do. And it was most of the time like spontaneous and just, organically tied to whatever was filmed or was happening that day.
Yeah. And I see you got 3 different cinema. Oh, yourself, Claire Sanford, and Samuel Gendron. And Laurence, you're a pretty talented photographer. So was there ever any thought of just having Laurence be one of maybe the 4th cinematographer for this?
Well, their photos are all over the film, so I think they're doing it in, their own way. Well, I'm there because I started the film by myself before getting, funding going. So, and like a lot of like key scenes happen really early on, and like it's just documentary life, right? Like that's what you have, and you cannot just repeat them. So they're not always the best film, but they're so charged emotionally that I kept them. And they're also very authentic. Like the first time Laurence told me about their transition was very different than the 5th time they told me about it, right? Because it was fresh, it was new. Like I didn't know about their story yet. So those are like very special moments that usually don't come back. So I filmed at the beginning. Then Claire Sanford is the main DOP for the whole project. She was at first a bit intimidated, right? Because Laurence is so talented, but she's also like very professional and experienced filmmaker. She is a filmmaker in her own right as well, but like DOP. So she just found, like, we discussed a lot about like the style of the film, like being very intimate and including the photographic device in the frames and, having those kind of tableaus. And so she was very, very good. And then Samuel finished like the last few shoots because Claire got a baby. We had 3 production babies because it spans over like 2.5 years. So yeah, different people on the crew had babies.
So, Laurence, you're a pretty talented artist. Did you get into any of the filmmaking of this documentary of yourself? Just not beyond being the subject, but did you have any sort of interest or anything of the behind the scenes stuff going on as it was being filmed?
Not with like the film camera itself, just because I can only focus on so many things at once. But I did learn a lot from observing Claire and Kate and the whole team, and I did have some feedback on the editing, and I think, like Kate said, overall the framing was inspired by my work already. So, yeah, I don't know if that answers the question, but I was mostly focused on being in the movie and then taking my pictures and doing that aspect of it.
Yeah.
Laurence is our official behind the scenes photographer as well because they're always like posting stories about production going on. It's like, oh, another like day in my life with a film crew.
Yeah.
So that's pretty fun. It's gonna be on our website launching this spring, and there are some nice.
Yeah, I did a lot of work on the website after the fact.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, like, I've never had a documentary done about me, but I figure like because I know what my life is through my own eyes, but I never get to see my life through other people's eyes. And when you're doing a documentary, that's kind of inherently what's happening. You get to see
Mhm.
yourself through other people's eyes. Laurence, was there anything about this documentary that you found out about yourself that you probably either didn't realize or didn't know before this documentary took place?
I don't know if I found out anything, but I think the documentary had a big part in my relationship with my parents because that's something we filmed. And that's something that really helped deepen my relationship with them and help them understand where I was coming from. So that's one aspect of it. And I think that's one of the most like engaging moments in the film because that's something a lot like everyone can relate to. Everyone has parents and everyone has, varying degrees of complications with their relationships with their parents. Um, so that was one aspect of it. But about myself, not necessarily. I've already been doing self portraiture for my entire adult life, and I'm very used to looking at myself and having a camera around. So that part was more something I'm used to.
So now
I
that
guess that was.
oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, excuse me. I was just gonna say it was benefiting us because Laurence is used being in front of a camera, so the
Mm-hmm.
natural came really quickly. Because sometimes subjects are a bit awkward or shy in front of a camera, and Laurence didn't really mind. So that was definitely something good for us. But we always try to avoid having the spotlight for too long on Laurence, because if you have like 10 hours a day on someone, then obviously you lose the natural because at one point it's just like it's too invasive, and you start like being self-conscious. So we were always filming like in short blocks of time, about 4 or 5 hours a day. Um, Besides New York like was a different production schedule, but in Montreal, like we had that flexibility with the crew.
Yeah. And so now that the movie's done, what's kind of like the release schedule? I see this supposed to hit theaters in April, but it's playing Slam Dance here soon, if not already.
Uh, this week, yeah.
What's this documentary gonna do? What's the plan going forward?
Well, it had like some festival circuits already, both in Canada and the United States. This is the second screening, Slam Dance. So it's our West Coast premiere. It's playing this Friday and next Tuesday. So we have two screenings. We're really excited about it, and it's like the most incredible festival to play at. And then following that, we're going to Oxford in Mississippi, and we also have like two other festivals coming up in Canada. And then the release is for April in Canada, and then hopefully there will be a release in the United States as well, but it's not confirmed yet.
And then we also did some festivals not in the spring, in the fall. We did ADM, which is like a documentary festival in Montreal, and then which one was it? The Calgary Film Festival and the Charlotte Film Festival. Was there another one? We've done a
Well,
few.
at the beginning of the year, there was the Real Out
Right,
queer in Kingston.
Kingston.
Oh, how's the response been so far with this?
Really good. I
Nice.
mean, people are really, really like excited about the film. We got super positive feedback. We had the honorable mention in the Charlotte Film Festival, and we got the 5 awards at the Indie Fest awards. We got for the original score, editing, the feature documentary, LGBTQ plus subject, and cinematography. So that was really, really great. And every time it's being shown in competition. So I think festivals recognize the value of the film, and we hope that it's going to have a great a great impact on people. But usually, at Q&As, people are really engaged by the subject, and they are amazed by our main subject, Laurence, and their work. So that's really, really pleasing to hear every time.
All right. And we get to see Laurence, we get to see your book Puberty.
Mhm.
And what's kind of your next great white whale that you're gonna because it seemed like a pretty big project and a pretty personal one to you. Do you have another one that you're gonna chase now that that one's completed?
Yeah, so the book was published in 2022, and it's now nearly sold out. There's a few copies left with Yofi Press based in Atlanta. But I think at some point I'll have to republish it because there's a lot of demand for it. But that'll be a few years down the line. For now, I'm mainly working on a video project of my own, which is on a similar topic. It's self-portraiture, and that's going to be shown in gallery next year. A lot of my work right now is mostly fine art based, so making prints and exhibiting in museums and stuff like that. And other than that, I have my own Patreon page where I share all of my work in progress. And yeah, just kind of making work for fun right now. I think that was such a big, defined project for a long time. And then with the documentary. So this year, I'm just making pictures that I like and that bring me joy. And I think that's what the world needs right now.
Yeah. Well, what are some places people can go if maybe pick up the last couple of copies of Puberty, or you mentioned the Patreon? Like, where can we send listeners to?
So the book is at Yoffy Press. That's Yoffy. And you can buy it online on their website. I think that's the only place left to buy it. And actually, it's only available in the States. It's sold out in Canada and Europe. So if you have some lucky listeners, they might get a hold of those last couple copies. And otherwise, my Patreon is at Laurence Philomène, and so is my Instagram and my website and all of that stuff. Just look up my name and you'll find it.
All right. And Catherine, I'm guessing you're going to be busy with this documentary for quite a bit longer before you jump onto the next project. But do you have something else that you might be pursuing after this?
I do, yes. Right now, it's really hard to find time. But right now, I'm editing a film for another filmmaker because I've been a film editor for the past 20 years. But as far as my next film, I'm presently writing a new proposal. So I'm gonna try to get new funding. One is about, I have 2 projects on the go, but one is about my family and connects a little bit with the Me Too subject, and it's with my grandmother, and it's gonna be a animated documentary. So it's a little bit different. I did animation in both my documentaries. So there is animation in Larry Day Dem. There was in the Sisters Dream and Variations. Actually, it's Nina, Laurence's partner, that contributed to the animation.
Nice.
So kudos to them. And another one is about my. It's I cannot talk about it in details, but it's also about self-expression, artistic project, and identity. But it involves more than one subject this time. So it's a different dynamic. but it could be like the trilogy, like it could end the trilogy if everything goes well.
All right. Well, I guess I'll get um, a movie recommendation from the both of you.
Thank you.
Basically a movie that's like that you really like or you really champion that just not a lot of people hear of.
I'm gonna go first because I know exactly the one. I would say Paris is Burning. It's a classic. I actually just got it at the library, the Criterion version, like yesterday. So I've been watching it on loop since then. But I've seen it many, many times in my life, and I think it's really one of the best documentaries ever made. Honestly, um, it's just so real and intimate and entertaining, and it just ages like fine wine. Like every time I watch it, it feels more and more relevant, even though it was filmed in the 80s. So yeah, Paris is Burning, definitely would recommend if you haven't seen it yet, or if you've seen it and it's been a while to rewatch it. Just really, really good, and it does touch on some similar topics as our documentary, but yeah, it's really good.
All right. And you, Catherine?
Nice one. Wow. What could I say? I mean, it's a different topic, but just like in the style and the intimacy, like I really love the stories we tell from Sarah Polley. It's kind of a mix between documentary and fiction. Oops, sorry. And as far as you really took me off guard now, like I wasn't expecting.
Just say Avengers Endgame and we can move on.
It's a good question.
Yeah, it is. Like I'm a film lover, of course, but like I've seen many in the past years, and it's just always hard to like pinpoint one. But I know that this one was.
You can rattle off a couple if you like.
Yeah, well, lately I saw We Forgot We Broke Up, which is about like it's a fiction, but it's about a trans singer and like the group dynamic. So that was a good one. Like I've seen it like 2 weeks ago. But yeah, like in terms of transgender or non-binary, I mean, Paris is Burning is great. I mean, Disclosure, of course, was really impactful for me when it came out, and No Ordinary Men by Aisling Chingy and Chase Joint. Like that's a pretty powerful documentary. It's also, I was gonna say it's Montreal based, but Chase is not, so I guess it's like Canadian production. I'm not sure where it stands in terms of like countries of production, but pretty good one.
All right. Well, I'm sorry, what was that?
Oh, I was just gonna say it's a pretty good one. I do recommend.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Never mind. Apparently I'm hearing things. But Catherine, Laurence, thanks for joining me and congratulations on the documentary. I wish you guys all the success and I really enjoyed the documentary.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much for inviting us.